You're listening to the Weekend Sport Podcast with Jason Pine from News Talk ZB.
World Snooker Championship is almost upon us. It starts proper next weekend. Qualifying going on at the moment. Alisha Singh is a presenter, reporter and host in several sports, including notably snooker. She's been immersed in the world of snooker since she was a child. Recently became the first female to host a World Snooker Tour event on television. Alisha Singh is with us. Alisha, thanks for taking the time. First of all, how big are the snooker world champs, not just in general, but for you as a sports broadcaster?
Well, snooker's actually been in my life since I was a child. So for me, the Snooker World Championships is the epitome of the snooker calendar. Obviously, it's very important this year. We've got some hot names coming up. Ronnie O'Sullivan, his 8th title. Very exciting. Yeah,
well, let's talk about Ronnie O'Sullivan and his chances of winning that 8th world title. What sort of shape is he in, and what chance do you give him of achieving what would be a record-setting 8th world title in the Snooker Championships?
So there are a few players on my mind at the moment, but I would say Ronnie O'Sullivan is a hot story at the moment because if he wins the World Snooker Championship, it's his 8th title, as you said. So he is undisputed. Stephen Hendry won 7 titles and Ray Reardon won 12, but Ronnie is at the top of winning titles at the moment. But I would like to just say is if you do look at the number of titles that Stephen Hendry won, and you look at the number of titles won by Ronnie O'Sullivan, it's very tight because what you have to remember is when Stephen Hendry was playing, there were only about 8 events per year. And now there are over 20. So Ronnie to win that 8th title would really cement him as a leader. He'll be fighting. It's really hard to write him off because of the way he plays.
Well, he won't have it all his own way, will he? Tell us about some of the other contenders, Alisha. Who else do you like the look of as we head towards the World Champs?
I would say for me, it's also Mark Williams. You're seeing a real resurgence at the moment in his career. Winning the last event on tour, the Tour Championship, the way he played was amazing. He's playing some of the best snooker of his life. Again, I would go with another Mark. So we've got Mark Allen. I think it's a matter of time before he wins the World Snooker Championship. He's got so much grit and fight as a player. This really could be his year. And honestly, he's one of those who could definitely win it in my view. I would also have to say another Mark, Mark Selby. Selby is back on form at the moment and he's playing at the level he needs to again. He's looked personally very great the last few events, so I think he's a strong contender. I would also like to touch on Neil Robertson. So you're part of the world. And some would call him an outsider, but obviously he's not an outsider. He's a former world champion. He's a Masters champion. He's won all the big events. And he's regarded as one of the best long potters, break builders in the history of snooker. But Neil's had a really strange season this year. He hasn't really been performing. He's missed balls. He's shown he's been playing well at times, but he's still lost a few matches. But recently, he's come to life again in the recent snooker events. He's playing some of the best snooker in his life that he's played for years, and he looks very dangerous this year. He's a huge event player. He's also a really cool guy, so he doesn't get stressed at all. He's not wound up. He is really focused. So there's many players there.
Yeah, there are a lot. Yeah, Neil Robertson, the Australian, of course. Yeah, they tend to be fairly laid back and cool-headed down this part of the world. What about experience, Alisha, and having played there before, having been there and done that? I don't remember too many players coming in unheralded and going deep into the World Snooker Champs. How important is experience?
Well, like I said, I named the class of 92 there. So Ronnie O'Sullivan, Mark Williams. I would say age doesn't matter, but the players that are looking after themselves, they really seem to be doing well. So they're used to the long frame format. They're really focusing on looking after themselves. So I wouldn't say age matters, but they're playing some of the best snooker of their life. And, you know, the older players, they've still got it.
Yeah, they have indeed. So what about some of the unknowns? What about those who are currently in qualifying to try and make it into the main draw? Anybody in particular who might make a splash in the main draw who perhaps isn't quite as well known?
Well, I think you never know until the qualifiers have finished. So we could be seeing someone that comes in deep. There's a lot of talent coming through, and the standard for qualifiers is extremely high at the moment. So I would like to talk about two Belgian players. So Julian Leclerc and Ben Martin. So very talented juniors in the sport at the moment. But I would say the standard of qualifiers is really high. When they're playing, they've got 2 weeks of snooker. They're not coming in fresh for the World Championships. So I would say, everyone else is coming in fresh. They're still playing. They're still going on. But everyone loves the Crucible. And I would say people going through the qualifiers, it's a massive achievement just to get there. And then to do well is another level.
All right. The holy grail of snooker is the 147 break. Obviously, it's a bit like, I guess, hitting a 9-darter at Alexandra Palace in the World Darts Championships. The 147 break. How hard is that to achieve?
It's definitely hard, I'll tell you that. I mean, like you said, a 147 break in snooker is generally considered harder to achieve than a 9-darter. I think the number of shots you have to take in consideration, a 147 break, 36 perfect pots of coloured balls in specific order. Whereas, a 9-darter finish requires just, 9 precise throws. There's obviously, you've got to think of the room for error. A 147 break offers a very little margin for error. You miss a pot, bad cue ball placement, you can derail the entire attempt. Yeah. What do you think?
I wouldn't back myself to get anywhere near either of the two things, but yeah, it feels to me as though the 147, as you say, with so many different parts to it and so little margin for error, may well be the greater achievement. I'm sure there'll be argument on both sides. The sport of snooker, Alisha, can I just ask you about that and the World Championships in particular at the Crucible Theatre in Sheffield? What is it about the sport of snooker that is so attractive to spectators?
I would say the snooker family, the fans, the atmosphere at the Crucible, it's the venue, it's the highlight of the calendar. And like I said, coming from a snooker fan myself, snooker's been in my life since I was a child. My father owned snooker club, so I was practically raised by the sound of clicking balls and quiet concentration. But it wasn't just the atmosphere that hooked me. One of my father's friends was actually Alex Hurricane Higgins. So I was so lucky to meet him, and he often stayed at my father's hotel. So seeing legends like Higgins close up, I would say he ignited my passion for sport. And I don't know about all snooker fans, but perhaps having a hero, seeing that talent on the table, that ignited my passion. So maybe that's why they like it too.
So how hard is it to get tickets? The championship runs over 2 or 3 weeks. Presumably, once you get to the business end, harder to get tickets. But can you get tickets to watch the early rounds?
So the tickets go on sale through the World Snooker Tour website, and they're very, very popular. So I would say everybody has to get in there early. They also do offer VIP access into a Century Club. So you get to have a meal, you get to meet some snooker players and maybe some legends that are at your table. And it's a really exciting experience. I would say as a snooker fan, you've got to go to the Century Club.
Oh, sounds amazing. All right, Alisha, let's get to it. Who is your pick? Who's your pick to win the World Snooker Championship 2024?
It is difficult. It's so difficult, but I'm going to have to say Ronnie O'Sullivan. He is undisputed, and he is considered as the most naturally gifted snooker player. He is fighting for that title, and I think, like I said before, it would really cement him as a leader. To win that 8th title would be incredible.
I think it'd be a very popular winner, although he won't have it all his own way, obviously, once it gets underway properly on Saturday, April 20, next Saturday. Alisha, thank you so much for spending time with us and giving us your analysis and your expertise. Really appreciate your time this afternoon.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for joining us. Alisha Singh there, broadcaster from the UK, talking about the World Snooker Championships.
For more from Weekend Sport with Jason Pine, listen live to News Talk ZB weekends from midday or follow the podcast on iHeartRadio.